From homeless black man to millionaire. The story that even Donald Trump and Elon Musk can't ignore. Lucas always thought he had it all. The sprawling penthouse, the flash cars, the endless parties where champagne splashed over designer suits. But beneath all that glam, nothing. Just cold silence in a room full of smiling faces. The city outside glittered like a jewel, but shadows clawed at its edges. And Lucas, he was blind to it. Then, one night, everything twisted. Walking the streets alone after a late meeting, Lucas stumbled over a woman sleeping rough on a cold, cracked sidewalk. Not just anyone, Tamara. Her skin glinted under a flickering street lamp like polished onyx. She sat wrapped in ragged blankets, eyes sharp and steady despite the biting wind. That night, Lucas felt something tangle tight in his chest. A strange, unfamiliar pull. Tamara talked like she saw right through all his shiny lies. Her voice was low, steady, full of grit and quiet strength. She told stories not of wealth or fame, but of fight and heartbreak, of scars that never quite healed. Around her, Lucas's world felt fake and empty by comparison, like a hollow stage set for some shallow play. But the city didn't want to see Lucas change. Whispers spread fast through the glittering halls. Gasps flew behind polished hands when word got out he'd been seen talking to a homeless woman. "What's he doing with that?" someone sneered. A young socialite smirked. "He's lost it, falling from grace." Even friends looked through him, cold and distraught. Lucas saw the judgment, staring eyes, harsh words like knives slicing at his new fragile hope. And then the bombshell. Tamara wasn't just some street soul. She held secrets that could unravel Lucas's empire. The same empire his family built with ruthless hands and closed doors. Something in her past tangled tight with his fortune, threatening everything he controlled. A hidden link that no one expected, like a crack running through thick concrete, threatening to crumble it all. Lucas's hands shook when she showed him a faded photograph, worn and creased. Faces blinked up at him from decades before. Faces he thought long erased. His heart hammered as whispers of betrayal and long-buried lies filled his mind. Could he trust her? Could he give up his throne for someone he barely knew? The city's harsh glare burned down on him, but for once, Lucas felt the cold bite of real fear. Not for money, but for loss. In those moments, Lucas realized his life was more than parties and empty trophies. It was tangled with Tamara's fight for survival. But the question poured down on him like rain. Could he break free? Or would he retreat, folding back into safe lies? Then, in the quiet of his study, he found it, a hidden letter slipped inside an old book. The ink was... It whispered secrets Lucas never saw coming. His breath caught, his pulse thundered. This letter could shatter everything. What did it say? And what would Lucas do next? Risk it all for a woman who could bring his world crashing down? Or disappear into the shadows of his perfect, empty life? That answer was waiting in the dark. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Lucas's heart thundered in his chest as he unfolded the hidden letter. The ink was faded, but each loop and swirl of the handwriting echoed with promises of long-lost truths. The room seemed to shrink, shadows creeping closer, darkness lurking just beyond the flickering light. He barely managed to read the first few lines before a shattering crash jolted him out of his thoughts. The glass of the window shattered, spraying shards across the floor like a terrible rain. Panic surged through him. Someone had broken in. The letter dropped from his hands, fluttering to the ground. What the hell was happening? "Lucas!" a voice shouted from the hallway, breaking the silence like a knife. It was Tom, his longtime assistant. "Get back! It's not safe!" Lucas's pulse raced. The sound of hurried footsteps thudded against the hardwood floor. He peered around the corner, fear clenching his gut. One glance told him things had spiraled out of control. Tom burst into the study, panic etched across his features. "They're coming for you! We need to leave!" Before Lucas could ask why, the front door flew open, and chaos poured in. Two men, faces masked, stormed through, their eyes cold as steel. "Get on the ground!" one of them demanded. Lucas's breaths came quick, shallow. Fear clutched at his throat, but he couldn't just freeze. This was it. He glanced at Tom, who was already reaching for his phone. "Call the police, now!" Lucas felt alive, every nerve ending buzzing with urgency. But before Tom could react, one of the intruders lunged toward them. He was fast, too fast, and within seconds, Lucas felt something cold pressed against his back. A gun. "Don't make a sound," the man hissed, voice low and gravelly. The other intruders scanned the room, eyes narrowing as they landed on the letter left on the floor. He picked it up, eyes scanning the words, his frown deepening. "What is this?" The air grew thick with tension as Lucas felt the world tilt under his feet. That letter was more than just paper. It was a bomb ready to explode. Then it hit him. The photograph Tamara had shown him. The faces. Her secrets. The first intruder cursed, his grip tightening on Lucas. "Who is she?" There was a raw edge to his voice, and for a second, Lucas saw a glimmer of recognition in the man's eyes. "Who, Tamara?" "Just some homeless woman," Lucas snapped, desperate to toss them off the scent. But doubt crept in. Was he lying? The second man slammed the letter down on the table, anger flashing across his face. "This isn't what I was promised." "What?" Lucas couldn't hold back anymore. Blackness crept into his vision, fear pushing him closer to the edge. The truth was teetering, just out of reach. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, there was a sound outside, sirens wailing in the distance. Tom shouted, "They're coming!" Hope flickered over Lucas like sunlight breaking through clouds. But doubt hung heavy in the air. "Grab her!" the second man barked, pointing toward the door. Just like that, the shadow shifted. Now it wasn't just about Lucas's past. It was about Tamara's future too. "What do you want with Tamara?" Lucas barely managed to choke the question out, his heart racing at the thought of what might happen next. The men shared a knowing look. We need her. And if you want her to live, you'll do exactly as we say." All at once, Lucas realized how little control he had over his life. The city he thought he knew was full of darkness, and now that darkness was here, at his front door, demanding answers. The sirens grew louder. Time was running out. But Lucas only felt one thought consuming him. Who was Tamara really? Would he sacrifice everything for a woman with secrets that might just unravel everything he believed about himself? The air felt electric, heavy with impending doom. And as the door burst open, Lucas braced himself. The truth was coming. And he didn't know if he was ready for it. Lucas's heart raced as he read the letter, the words blurring together. It was a tangle of emotions. Fear twisted in his gut. Excitement sparked in his chest. But mostly, dread. What could it reveal? He steadied his breath and leaned back in his chair. Then the door swung open. Tamara stood there, her eyes wide with something Lucas had never seen before. Fear. "Lucas!" she shouted, voice trembling. "You need to come with me, now!" Wait, what's wrong? Panic swept over him. Was she in danger? He pushed the letter aside, urgency seeping into his lens. "Just trust me." She stepped forward, grabbing his arm. Her grip was firm, but her hands shook. There's no time. In that moment, the world outside faded. They rushed down the penthouse corridor. The plush carpets, brushing against his feet, felt like a distant memory. Outside, but darkness loomed closer. "Tamara, what's happening?" he pressed. She didn't answer. They dashed into the elevator, and the doors slid shut with a finality that sent Lucas's mind racing. He studied her face, gleaning tiny glimmers of determination and fear. "Something's been uncovered," Tamara finally said, her voice just above a whisper. "About your family." His pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" But she shook her head, unwilling to reveal more until they were safe. The elevator dinged, and when the doors opened, the street bustled with weekend nightlife. The cacophony of laughter and music surrounded them, but all Lucas heard was his heart thundering in his ears. They slipped into a dark alley, just out of sight, and it was there. The air changed. "Heavy, electric, okay, tell me," he urged, panic slicing through his mind like the chill in the air. Before she could respond, a loud crash broke through the night, a sharp sound that turned heads. Lucas peered around the corner. A group of men stood by a van, eyes narrowed and aggressive. "Tamara, They're here for me," she whispered, eyes wide. "And for you. They can't find out what I know." His mind reeled as a menacing figure stepped forward from the shadows. Older, face scarred from past battles. Lucas hesitated. Recognition clawed its way past the fear. This wasn't just some thug. This was an enforcer, a soldier from his family's past. "What do you know?" Lucas breathed, but the man didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Tamara, eyes hard and unforgiving. "Did you think you could hide it forever? The truth will come out," he spit. Lucas's heart sank. What was the truth? Tamara's expression hardened, and for a brief second, he saw something change in her. A gathering storm. "Stay back!" she shouted to the man, stepping in front of Lucas. You don't know what I'll do if you come any closer. More footsteps echoed. Chaos erupted as shadows moved to surround them. The men closed in, their intentions dark and threatening. An unbearable pressure built in Lucas's chest. "What are they talking about, Tamara?" he asked, desperation calling at him. "What truth?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she lunged forward, grabbing a metal pipe from the ground. "Tamara, no!" Panic surged through him as he stepped toward her. But the enforcer struck first. A blow to her arm that sent her crashing back into him. As she fell, a small object slipped from her pocket, clattering to the ground. Lucas knelt to pick it up, and his breath caught. It was the faded photograph from the letter, but the faces were different. They were his family. "Wait!" he shouted, looking up. But it was too late. The enforcer lunged. Everything shattered into chaos. A scream erupted, heart-stopping, splintering the fragile, tentative bond they had formed. And in the darkness, everything Lucas thought he knew twisted. There, in that moment of chaos, he realized he was caught between worlds he never understood, and the line dividing them was more terrifying than he could have imagined. What lay hidden in his family's past? Would he fight for Tamara, or flee into his old life? The darkness closed in, and he had to choose. Lucas's heart raced as he read the letter, words blurring together. It was a tangle of emotions. Fear twisted in his gut, excitement sparked in his chest, but mostly dread. What could it reveal? He steadied his breath and leaned back in his chair. Then the door swung open. Tamara stood there, her eyes wide, with something Lucas had never seen before. Fear. "Lucas!" she shouted, voice trembling. "You need to come with me, now!" "Wait, what's wrong?" Panic swept over him. Was she in danger? He pushed the letter aside, urgency seeping into his limbs. "Just trust me!" She stepped forward, grabbing his arm. Her grip was firm, but her hands shook. "There's no time." In that moment, the world outside faded. They rushed down the penthouse corridor, the plush carpets brushing against his feet like a distant memory. Outside, the city loomed, a fortress of glass and steel. But darkness loomed closer. "Tamara, what's happening?" he pressed. She didn't answer. They dashed into the elevator, and the doors slid shut with a finality that sent Lucas's mind racing. He studied her face, gleaning tiny glimmers of determination and fear. "Something's been uncovered," Tamara finally said, her voice just above a whisper. "About your family." His pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" But she shook her head, unwilling to reveal more until they were safe. The elevator dinged, and when the doors opened, the street bustled with weekend nightlife. The cacophony of laughter and music surrounded them, but all Lucas heard was his heart thundering in his ears. They slipped into a dark alley, just out of sight, and it was there the air changed. Heavy, electric. "Okay, tell me," he urged, panic slicing through his mind like the chill in the air. Before she could respond, a loud crash broke through the night, a sharp sound that turned heads. Lucas peered around the corner. A group of men stood by a van, eyes narrowed and aggressive. "Tamara, they're here for me," she whispered, her eyes wide. "And for you, they can't find out what I know." His mind reeled as a menacing figure stepped forward from the shadows. Older, face scarred from past battles. Lucas hesitated. Recognition clawed its way past the fear. This wasn't just some thug. This was an enforcer, a soldier from his family's past. "What do you know?" Lucas breathed. But the man didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Tamara, eyes hard and unforgiving. "Did you think you could hide it forever? The truth will come out," he spat. Lucas's heart sank. What was the truth? Tamara's expression hardened, and for a brief second, he saw something change in her. A gathering storm. "Stay back!" she shouted to the man, stepping in front of Lucas. "You don't know what I'll do if you come any closer." More footsteps echoed. Chaos erupted as shadows moved to surround them. The men closed in, their intentions dark and threatening. An unbearable pressure built in Lucas's chest. "What are they talking about, Tamara?" he asked, desperate. What truth? But she didn't answer. Instead, she lunged forward, grabbing a metal pipe from the ground. "Tamara, no!" Panic surged through him as he stepped toward her. But the enforcer struck first, a blow to her arm that sent her crashing back into him. As she fell, a small object slipped from her pocket, clattering to the ground. Lucas knelt to pick it up, and his breath caught. It was the faded photograph from the letter. But the faces were different. They were his family. "Yate!" he shouted, looking up. But it was too late. The enforcer lunged. Everything shattered into chaos. A scream erupted, heart-stopping, splintering the fragile bond they had formed. Suddenly, an earth-shattering explosion shook the alley. A flash of light engulfed the space. Lucas flinched, covering his eyes. The noise echoed in his ears, drowning out everything. Smoke filled the area, and confusion swept through the crowd. Tamara's eyes widened with horror. "No, they couldn't!" The enforcer's expression morphed from anger to shock. Uncertainty flooding his features. Shouts erupted from the onlookers, now spilling into the alley. Panicked and wild, Lucas grabbed Tamara, pulling her close, his heart racing, not just from fear, but from the questions flooding his mind. What was that? Are they dead? What did they want with us? "Those men," she said, breathless and pale. "They've been after me for years. They know what happened, Lucas. They know." Before she could finish, a woman emerged from the smoke, face obscured, but eyes clear. She pointed a finger directly at Lucas, her voice cutting through the chaos. You're him. You're the one they're after." His stomach dropped, confusion turning to dread. "What? Why me?" "Because you're the key. Everything about your family and hers." "What do you mean?" Lucas's voice trembled. Tamara's not just a nobody. She's tied to your family's dark secrets." The ground shook beneath him. Everything he had known teetered on the brink of chaos. Whatever he thought he knew shattered away. Was Tamara a victim or a player in a dangerous game? More questions swirled, and Lucas could feel the weight of truth heavy in the air. Would he uncover what lay hidden? Or could this unravel everything before him in a spiral of darkness? The alley felt like a storm was brewing, and he had to decide if he'd face it head-on or run into the shadows. Lucas stood there, heart racing, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. The letter loomed large in his mind, its secrets wrapping around him like a noose. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his shaking hands. This was it. This was the moment that could change everything. He opened the letter slowly, the musty scent of old paper filling the air. Words spilled out, vivid memories of names and places long buried. Eyes wrote the past that had been hidden from him. Each line struck him like a bolt, like lightning slicing through the darkness. But then, just as he began to piece together the terrifying implications, a sharp knock startled him. "Lucas!" It was Greg, his business partner, and he sounded frantic. "Not now, Greg!" he shouted, trying to push his mind back to the letter. It was too noisy, too chaotic outside. But good luck trying to ignore that sound. The door rattled again, followed by the sound of footsteps rushing toward him. "Lucas, you need to see this!" Greg burst in, eyes wide and frantic, his voice a mix of concern and confusion. Lucas turned to him, tension tightening in his chest. "What's going on?" "There's been an accident. A big one. Tamara." Greg hesitated, swallowing hard. She's been taken to the hospital. It's bad." His world tilted. "Taken? Why? What happened?" "They found her near the street where you saw her last." "There was a fight. Some guys—" Greg couldn't finish the sentence. The look on his face told Lucas everything he needed to know. Anger flared up inside him, hot and blinding. But in the mix of fear and rage, another emotion crept in. Dread. He shot up from his chair, the letter slipping from his fingers and floating to the floor like a whisper. "I need to go, now," he commanded. Outside, the city hummed with life, but it felt wrong. Nothing but noise. A cacophony that rubbed raw against his fraying nerves. In the distance, sirens wailed, echoing the chaos inside him. His thoughts raced faster than his feet as he jumped into his car. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Pulling into the hospital parking lot, his heart beat like a war drum. He rushed inside, barely registering the sterile smell of antiseptic that saturated the air. Desperate, he sought out the nurse at the front desk. "Where's Tamara?" he gasped, breathless. "The ER. She's undergoing treatment," the nurse replied, her expression unreadable. The words landed like stones in his stomach. "Visiting hours are limited." "I don't care! I need to see her!" As he rounded the corner toward the ER, panic twisted his gut. Footsteps thundered behind him, voices raised in argument, sharp and strident. Something told him he wasn't prepared for what was about to unfold. Then someone barked, "There he is!" and the world fell silent. Lucas turned, heart pounding, the air thick with tension. Suddenly, it all unraveled. Faces emerged from the shadows, familiar but twisted with disdain. His family, his wealth, the very empire he thought he knew. "What do you want?" Lucas demanded, confusion morphing into fear. "You thought you could just walk away?" his brother sneered, ice cold. "Tamara knows everything, Lucas, and we can't let that spread. Not after all we've built." His stomach dropped. What did they mean? What secrets did they hide? Suddenly, the stark reality hit him. The letter, Tamara's past, the connection to the empire. His family wasn't just against him. They were fighting to protect something monstrous, the truth. And now, Tamara, the one person who could unravel it all, was in danger. Before he could speak, a piercing scream erupted from the ER. The shouting and noise faded into nothingness as dread clamped down on him like a vice. What if he was too late? What if the only person who could help him find answers was gone? As he stumbled toward the sound, heart racing, Lucas realized this was only the beginning. The truth about Tamara wasn't just a risk, it was a threat. And now, everything he thought he knew was about to shatter like glass. In that moment of stillness, as Lucas held the letter, the weight of his world shifted. Each breath felt heavier, the air electric with unspoken truths. His hands shook. His heart raced. What could be in that letter? Just a whisper of ink could tear apart everything he had built. Then, a loud crash jolted him from his thoughts. The front door of his penthouse slammed open. Jaden, his right-hand man, burst in, eyes wild with panic. "Lucas, you need to come quick!" His voice cracked, slicing through the tension. "What is it?" Lucas snapped, folding the letter carefully, instinctively. "It's Tamara!" Jaden's breath came quick, his skin pale. "She's been attacked!" "They found her in the alley, near the cafe!" A chilling wave washed over Lucas. Panic clawed at him, clawed and raw. He shot out of his seat, heart pounding. Tamara, with her fierce stories and sharp gaze. Was she okay? Without thinking, he flew down the hall, past Jaden, down the stairs. His mind was a whirlwind of images. Her laughter, the warmth in her eyes, the way she made the world feel real when everything else felt like glass. "Where is she?" he shouted, bursting into the lobby, where a crowd had gathered outside. "It was bad, Lucas. They said she's—" But Lucas was already outside. The night air hit him like ice. The alley was lined with flashing lights. Police cars pulsed red and blue. A chaotic dance. Shouts filled the air. Panic, fear, confusion. He pushed through the throng, desperation turning to dread. His gut twisted as he spotted a figure on the ground, surrounded by paramedics. It was her, Tamara, eyes closed, pale against the dark asphalt. A blanket covered her, but the way her body lay was wrong. "No!" Lucas gasped, knees buckling. He stumbled forward, but Jaden caught him. "Let them work, Lucas! We can't interfere!" But he couldn't hear Jaden. All he felt was the rising tide of nausea. Not her. Not the heart that pulsed against the night. Suddenly, through the crowd, a voice erupted. A familiar voice that stopped Lucas dead in his tracks. It was Greta, a former friend, once bright and full of life. Now her face shone with anger and fear. "Lucas, you better come see this!" She was pointing, shaking, finger trembling. Lucas turned, eyes wide. There, on the ground near the alleyway, lay what looked like scattered papers. But they weren't just any papers. They were photographs. Faded but familiar. Faces from the letter. The same faces he had studied moments before. One photo slipped into view, smudged but unmistakable. His mother, young and vibrant, standing between two people he recognized, Tamara and a man whose face twisted his insides. The ink of a lie suddenly scrawled through his mind. each line connecting dots he dared not see before. "Lucas, we need to figure this out," Jaden said, pulling him back. But it was too late. The threads of his life began to unravel. Tamara wasn't just some homeless woman with a story. She was woven into his history, a shadow cast long before his rise. Lucas's world tilted further into chaos. This wasn't just about losing her. It was about facing everything he thought he knew. As he grabbed Jaden's arm, a single thought echoed in the hollowness of him. What had he really been searching for? Tamara's fight had become intertwined with his own. But this revelation, could it all go darker from here? Or was there still a spark of redemption waiting to ignite? The night felt thick, oppressive, filled with whispers as the crowd murmured behind them. Lucas took a shaky breath. He needed answers, and time was slipping through his fingers like sand. Lucas's hands trembled as the hidden letter slipped from his grasp, fluttering to the floor like a trapped bird. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing with the gravity of the revelation. The ink blurred before his eyes, messy and chaotic, a mirror of the turmoil inside him. He leaned closer, breath caught in his throat. A message from the past. He could feel the weight of the moment crushing him down. Tamara had been closer to him than anyone else in years, and now there was this? His mind raced in 1,000 directions. Did he truly know her? Did they share a warmth? Or was it a deception wrapped in genuine pain? Before he could process further, the door swung open with a bang. The sound cracked through the silence, startling him. A gust of cold air whooshed in, and there stood his business partner, Mark. Panic lined Mark's face, dreadful and wide-eyed. "Lucas, you need to see this!" P said breathlessly, his voice high and pleading. It's about Tamara." Lucas's stomach dropped. "What about her?" he demanded, pushing past the dread rising in him. "Just come, now!" Mark turned sharply and dashed down the corridor, urgency lacing his every step. Lucas followed, heart racing, confusion clawing at him. What could possibly be worse than what he had already uncovered? They reached the main office area, a bright, stark space filled with polished wood and glass, the epitome of their success. Mark hesitated at the door before entering, taking a deep breath. Inside, a group of startled faces turned toward Lucas. There was disbelief, shock, anger. His team was on edge. The whispers flew between them like darts, accusations hiding beneath the skin of their words. "Lucas, you don't understand," Mark pressed, eyes wild. "Tamara has, she has a brother, and he's part of a criminal ring. They're linked to your family's history." A wave of nausea crashed over Lucas. His mind flipped through memories of high society gatherings, the tales of family wealth stained with scandal. "What are you saying?" he demanded, fists clenched at his sides. "The police are here. They think Tamara's connected to a series of crimes. We're being drawn into this. Your family might be targeted. Your name could be dragged through the mud. It's all over the news." The words landed heavy and sharp. Lucas staggered back, the room spinning. It couldn't be true. All he had fought for, all that he had built, threatened by the very connection that had sparked a flicker of hope in him. Just then, the door burst open again, and 2 uniformed officers stormed in. They were all stern faces and authority, and Lucas felt the temperature drop. One of them stepped forward, scanning the crowd with penetrating eyes. "Lucas Marks?" I am," Lucas stammered, adrenaline spiking through him. "Please come with us. We need to talk about Tamara and your family connections." Panic surged within him. The air felt suffocating, and the whispers of his colleagues wrapped around him like chains. What had started as a chance for redemption turned into a spiral of fear. As he stepped forward, his eyes darted toward the door, where he imagined Tamara standing, her strength, her stories now tangled in a web of chaos. Would she be a part of this? He shivered, the truth and lies spinning together. "Wait!" he struggled to shout, but it was lost in the wash of voices and the frantic energy in the room. There was no going back now. The shadows had crept in, and his once perfect world threatened to shatter. But in that uncertainty, a flicker of defiance ignited. The letter, the connection, Tamara, everything twisted into question. Who was she really? And what did all of this mean for his choices moving forward? The police led him away, but in his heart, a storm brewed. The real battle had just begun. As Lucas stood there, the police leading him away, a wave of dread crashed over him. Images of Tamara, sprawled on that pavement, came flooding back. He shook his head, trying to push the horror aside. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about her, and he couldn't lose her. They guided him through the buzzing crowd. Murmurs rippled around them, a symphony of shock and anger. He felt the weight of their eyes, the judgment pressing down. Were they looking at him with pity? Did they know all that he had uncovered? "Lucas," one of the officers said, pulling him from his thoughts. "We just have a few questions." But before he could respond, a series of loud shouts echoed down the corridor. But it was chaos. Lucas turned just in time to see a figure burst through, sending people sprawling. "Get back!" the officer shouted, lunging toward the chaos. It was a man, tall, wild-eyed, pushing through the crowd. Sweat glistened on his forehead as he pointed frantically at Lucas. "They're coming for her! Don't let them take her!" The heaviness in Lucas's chest intensified. "Who are you?" he demanded, adrenaline spiking. "Tamara's brother!" The man panted, urgency lacing his voice. "You don't know what they'll do! They're connected to your family's past, Lucas! They'll try to silence her!" The word hung in the air, heavy and lethal. Lucas's heart raced. "Silence her? What do you mean?" But before the man could answer, sirens blasted outside, drowning out the voices. Lucas felt a surge of panic. Time was crumbling to dust around him. He couldn't lose Tamara. Not now. Then, in a split second, the man turned, glancing over his shoulder. "They're here!" The air thickened with tension. Suddenly, gunshots rang out, echoing down the hallway. Chaos erupted. People screamed, scrambling for cover. Lucas froze, instincts kicking in. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing Tamara's brother, pulling him toward a nearby exit. They barreled through the chaos, blurred figures and ghostly faces all around. The world spinning in a whirlwind of fear. His heart thundered in his chest, louder than the gunfire. They stumbled into an alley, gasping for breath. Just seconds later, the man turned to Lucas, eyes wide. "You don't understand. Tamara's not just any woman. She's the last link to an empire that your family tore apart. She holds the key. A chill shot through Lucas. Key? He felt the ground shift again, confusion clawing at his mind. Your family, they're not who you think they are. They killed to protect something, Lucas. They've manipulated everything. Her, you, everything. Each word struck like a hammer. Lucas sank against the wall, everything he thought he knew fracturing into shards. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. But then, from behind them, the sound of footsteps shattered the uncertainty. The brothers' eyes widened. We need to go. They're coming! But as they turned to run, a powerful flash tore through the alley. Lucas shielded his eyes. When he looked again, Tamara collapsed beside him. No longer just a victim. She was an unraveling thread, shadowed and silent. I know what they did. Her voice shook, barely above a whisper. They didn't just take my past. They took yours too. The world tilted. Lucas felt bile rise in his throat. What do you mean? He croaked, clutching her hand. Her breath was shallow, pain etched on her face. Your family and mine, it's all connected. We're closer than you think, and if we don't fight together, Lucas, they'll destroy us both. As the darkness closed in, every truth whispered in that moment shifted the ground beneath him. Could he trust her? The gunfire echoed again, sharper this time. Fear clawed at him as he realized this was more than he had bargained for. Everything spun. Would he rise? Would he disappear into the shadows? The answers lay ahead, waiting in the chaos. Lucas's heart raced as he held Tamara, their hands entwined, as if their very touch could shield them from the chaos surrounding them. The weight of her words echoed in his mind like a drum. Every moment grew heavier, suffocating him. Suddenly, gunfire erupted nearby, piercing the air like shards of glass. He froze, a cold wave of fear washing over him. "Get back!" Tamara's brother shouted, eyes wild with panic. Lucas instinctively pushed Tamara behind him, shielding her with his body. But just as the situation seemed to spiral into total darkness, a flash of light caught their eyes. Blinding, bright, overwhelming. Lucas shielded his face, squinting against it. When the light faded, the alley felt eerily quiet. Had they imagined it? Then it happened. A figure emerged from the smoke, stepping forward, and everything froze. A woman with wild hair and an angry look held a gun. "Stop!" she commanded, her voice fierce and shivering with urgency. "Get away from them!" Tamara's brother recoiled. "Who are you?" "I'm here to help. You don't understand." Before she could finish, a crackling explosion erupted from the gun. Lucas flinched, fear taking hold. But it wasn't aimed at him. It hit the ground near the group of men advancing upon them, creating a distraction. Panic surged anew. Amid the chaos, Tamara collapsed. "No!" Lucas cried, catching her before she hit the ground. His heart twisted. She was slipping away. He grabbed her shoulders, fear twisting in his gut. "Stay with me, Tamara, please." I can't." Her voice was faint, each word barely forming. Tears streamed down Lucas's face, a scorching mix of pain and desperation flooding through him. The woman stepped closer, her eyes frantically scanning the scene. "We've got to go, now." But as they tried to move, Lucas's phone buzzed violently in his pocket, the sudden sound jolting him. He hesitated, pulling it out, heart pounding. A video had just come through. It was from an unknown number, and the thumbnail froze on a still that sent chills down his spine. With shaking hands, he pressed play. The screen flickered to life, revealing a darkened room where a figure sat, shadowed, but undeniably familiar. His father. The voice sent a shiver clawing up Lucas's spine, calm but ice cold. Lucas, if you're watching this, things are worse than I ever imagined. Tamara's family, they're the ones who lost everything, and the truth runs deeper than you think. Every word dug into Lucas's core, unsettling and dark. He glanced at Tamara, her eyes beginning to glaze over. She wasn't just a victim. She was a pawn in a game he could barely grasp. They're connected to your mother's death. It was never an accident, his father continued, indignant and steady. Lucas felt his breath catch. What? He couldn't take the words in. No, it can't be true. But he knew deep down, this was a revelation crafted to pierce his heart, to splinter anything resembling certainty. The woman screamed. Bullets ricocheted off nearby walls, but Lucas barely heard them. His world tilted completely. Your mother was involved, the voice on the screen went on. You need to understand, Tamara is your sister. Everything froze. Lucas's vision blurred, feelings swirling like a tempest. What? He gasped, feeling as though the ground had given way beneath him. That connection, that truth, could it really be possible? Before he could process the enormity of it, a gunshot rang close by. It shattered the tension like glass, sending Lucas back to reality, to Tamara, to the danger pressing in. She looked up, wide-eyed and scared, holding on to what semblance of strength she had left. Lucas, what's going on? He gripped her hand tightly, trying to steady both their trembling souls. I don't know, but we have to move. As they stumbled backward, the sound of footsteps neared again. Danger felt imminent, but now a new battle raged within Lucas. He was torn between protecting Tamara and uncovering the truth that could seal their fates forever. The alley erupted in chaos as they turned, preparing to face whatever awaited them. Lucas had to confront his family's past, and what it meant for their future was still a haunting unknown. Lucas felt the world spinning, teetering on the brink of chaos. The urgency in Tamara's brother's eyes fueled his fear. We have to go now! His heart pounded in his chest as the shadows loomed closer, echoing with the darkness of unanswered questions. Tamara lay weak in his arms. I can't. Her voice was a whisper, each word barely escaping her lips. Lucas could feel her life force draining, the warmth fading. Fight, Tamara. You have to hold on. Your family isn't what you think, she murmured, searching his eyes. Please, believe me. The weight of her words crashed around them like a wave. Lucas swallowed hard, understanding that deep down, this wasn't just about Tamara. It was about him too. It was about the tangled legacy of a family he thought he knew. Sirens wailed closer, slicing through the air with urgency. Come on, he shouted, pulling her back into the alley, adrenaline surging through him. He glanced at her brother. What do we do? We have to get her help. There's a safe place. Together, they dashed through the shadows, hearts racing in synchrony. Each footfall echoed their resolve. The alleyways twisted, the city lights no longer comforting, but menacing. Lucas could feel the chaos behind him, the pursuing shadows growing closer with each passing second. They reached a hidden door at the end of a narrow street. It creaked open to reveal a dimly lit room. A figure stepped forward, eyes sharp and assessing. A healer, perhaps. "What's wrong?" she asked, urgency laced in her voice. "Tamara, she's hurt! We need help!" Fresh panic surged as Lucas placed her gently on the table. Each second stretched like an eternity while the healer moved with swift precision. Tamara's breaths were shallow, her eyes fluttering. "Lucas," she whispered, "trust the truth. It will set you free." He felt a lump in his throat, knowing she was right, but terrified of what that truth might mean. As the healer worked, Lucas turned to Tamara's brother. "What do we do about them?" He nodded toward the chaos outside. "They'll come looking." The brother's face hardened. "We confront them! It's the only way!" Lucas contemplated for a moment. The pulse of determination thudded in his ears. They couldn't hide from the truth. It was now or never. "Let's do it!" As the healer stabilized Tamara, Lucas and her brother slipped back into the night. They moved like shadows, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The city held secrets, and he was done running. He owed it to Tamara, to himself. Finally, they arrived at the familiar double doors of Lucas's family estate. It stood tall, a monument to his past. Fear gripped him, but the flame of resolve ignited. As they entered, the air changed. Tension hung thick, like smoke. The shadows of his family lingered, all eyes on him. "You can't do this, Lucas," his brother warned. "You don't know the danger." "But I know the truth," Lucas shot back, fury igniting within him. "And I'm not afraid." Gasps erupted from the gathered family, their faces contorting in disbelief. Lucas took a step forward, unveiling their secrets like a mask slipping away. "Tamara is my sister." Silence enveloped them. And in that silence, Lucas felt weight lifting. All the years of denial crumbling beneath the truth. The shadows writhed with anger, but he stood firm. "Now, we fight for what's right. For Tamara, for our family." Just then, a loud crash echoed through the hall as more intruders rushed in. "Time's up," a voice yelled. Lucas felt adrenaline surge, ready to protect his newfound family, determined to break the cycles of lies. Then, as chaos erupted once more, Lucas turned to find Tamara standing at the doorway, stronger than before, though still unsteady. "You did it!" she breathed, a light returning to her eyes. And as they all faced the reality laid before them, Lucas felt a sense of hope flicker in the darkness. They had their work cut out for them, but together they could confront the past and forge a better future. But the fight was far from over. You have to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the upcoming exclusive stories that are about to explode. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your love. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. This is the moment to show your support and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer to share.